Welcome to Girls Gone Hallmark, a Hallmark review podcast. I'm Megan, and I'm a longtime Hallmark fan.
I'm Wendy. I'm a former Hallmark hater, and holy moly, I'm scrolling through our notes of the emails we have here.
I know, and I have to seriously edit this list in order to make it palatable for a single episode.
Wowza.
That being said, we do appreciate your very insightful emails and voicemails, and yeah, we do have a voicemail this week.
All right.
About the way home. If you'd like to participate in future listener mailbags, you can do so by emailing us hello@girlsgonehallmark.com or leaving us a voicemail 949-329-8090. If you missed any of that, it's in the show notes, so you don't need to rush to write it down while you're driving around.
Can I give you a hot take on the way home?
Yes?
I've been thinking about it.
Yes?
Because, you know, this is a show that sits with you, right?
Uh-huh.
My hot take is I think the show could have ended when Jacob came home.
Like season 2? Like Jacob comes home, that's a wrap?
Did he come in season 3?
No, he came home like season finale of season 2.
I think at the end of season 3.
Really?
Yeah.
What would you have done with all those?
I don't know. I'm not a writer. I don't know. I would maybe not have introduced them. I think because sometimes I'm like, have we just like jumped the shark? You know?
So now you don't want a season 5?
Well, of course I want a season 5 because
Okay.
I'm invested in the show. I'm just thinking like if it was originally planned, maybe they could have made the Jacob storyline longer.
Oh, I think people would have rioted if Jacob was lost in the past for longer than 2 seasons.
I don't know. See, I have mixed feelings about it. I'm curious what listeners think. If you want to weigh in, email us hello@girlsgonehallmark.com, and you can just say, no, Wendy, you're wrong. And that's okay too.
Well, what I'm hoping for is we have introduced so many new ideas this season, Vern and Tessa and all of that. And I'm not totally sure any of that was necessary. It's interesting, but the one piece that we haven't wrapped up that I think is interesting is Evelyn. And I hadn't until recently thought about adult Evelyn. I think we talked about it in our last episode recap about what that means. You know, she dies alone. I'm curious what sort of resolution we're going to get there. If Alice plays any role there, that's the thing that I'm most curious about now. Yes, I'm curious about who Casey is. Yes, I'm curious about this whole Tessa situation and how that concludes. But I'm invested in Evelyn. That being said, I do think season 3, the finale, was quite the emotional pinnacle of the show.
I agree.
I'm not sure that we'll ever top that.
I agree. So let's get into listener mailbag. We have it organized like we did last week.
Correct.
Megan organized it.
And the week before, actually.
Oh, was it? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
With so many emails, this is the way it works out best. And we're going to start right up top with a correction because, once again, I was wrong. Julian mentions, come with me to Stratford. And I was like, that's the birthplace of Shakespeare. So I was like, oh, he's does this Shakespearean acting. So I assumed he's going to England. Many Canadians dropped into our DMs and emails and YouTube comments, and I appreciate it. Here's one from Gina. Gina says, in a previous episode, Julian mentioned he was a Canadian actor. I live in Nova Scotia, which is next to New Brunswick, just for context, and the Stratford Festival that he's referring to would be the one in Stratford, Ontario. It's a big deal in Canada, so if he's made it there, he must be doing all right. So he was not, in fact, asking her to cross the pond, so to speak, just move to a different Canadian province. Still,
Did you just come up with that? Cross the pond?
didn't even mean, that's what they say.
I understand that, but
No.
we're talking about a show where they use a pond to time travel.
Truly didn't even make the connection in my head until you said it.
Funny.
Still a wild leap for Julian after spending 2 days with this woman to ask her to join him elsewhere.
I think so too.
I maintain I have issues with Julian.
And I maintain that we're bad at geography.
Indeed.
Who knew that there was a Stratford, Ontario?
Lots of people. Many.
Just two dummies sitting at a kitchen table in Southern California.
That's right.
No idea.
I think on our recent episode, we said Minnesota? Is that in the Midwest?
Yes, I think I said that.
I still don't know the answer to that question.
Oh my gosh.
You know how everyone says Americans are assholes? I think Californians might be assholes. Or maybe just we are. Can I tell you the intricacies of Orange County geography? Sure. West of the Inland Empire? Not much.
I was going to say like the 91.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Geography talk. Anyway, let's continue to talk about Julian. Megan really dislikes this man. Alyssa wrote in, I'm glad Julian is leaving. Apparently Alyssa doesn't like him either. He felt unnecessary, insincere, and almost like he was love bombing Dell. I wonder if they originally planned for a longer storyline for him and Dell, but changed after learning season 4 would be their last.
And who knows if we've seen the last of Julian. Lindsay wrote in with the follow-up on Dell's fall. Who did she see go into the woods? And she says, who did Dell see go into the woods while she was on Stormy? If they were really there or still there, wouldn't they have seen her fall? Was she hallucinating before she fell, or did they jump in the pond before she could see them? What's your take on that scene?
Let me think about it here for a second. Let me process. Dell thinks she sees someone going in to the woods. She thinks it might be Colton.
Yes.
Is she hallucinating here? Is she having a memory here? Is she dealing with some sort of age-related situation?
Visual dementia?
I don't know. Is that a thing? Is it a ghost she sees? Is it a
ghost.
Who knows?
Our next comment in context works really well for me.
Okay.
And this is about Colton in Dell's visions. Jen says, I wonder if he's manifesting as her will to live. First, he's saying, come with him when she's first down, not leading her to the light, but back to the living. Then, as you discussed, he is the one to push her to wake up. Overall, I think the visions, and I guess her ability to choose whether or not she wakes up, is Dell's battle with staying in the past versus living in the present, which Kat and Alice and perhaps Jacob battle more literally in deciding whether or not to go back to the pond.
I definitely think that's a theme that we're dealing with. And I can see the connection of using Dell's having a memory or whatever,
right,
being stuck in the past and going forward for the future, especially in that episode, because Sam and Julian both had been asking her, not pressuring, asking her like, hey, come live with me. Let's go do this.
Yeah.
Let's move forward together in the future. And she was stuck letting Colton go and going forward and doing that. So maybe it's not deeper than just her being stuck in her memories.
Perhaps.
Yeah. Finally, Sam versus Julian. Francisco writes in, Colton is obviously the love of her life. But if she ever thought Sam didn't care about her, she couldn't have been proven more wrong. He dashed out of the house looking for her while Julian did nothing. Do you prefer Sam over Julian? Do you think Sam cares more?
I think that's exactly what that scene was designed to make us believe. I'm still a little bit on the fence about what's going on with Sam, but I think he has shown up for Dell. His panic in that moment where Julian mentions that she went to go get lightning and Sam realizes, oh, this is a problem. I think it's designed to tell us Sam knows her.
Knows her better than Julian does.
Yes. And cares about her because he rushes out to help her. Next up, we're going to read the voicemail from Eric from Iowa.
In Iowa. There's been a lot of thought this week about how seeing the younger version of Bitch has generated a lot of empathy for the character, and I agree. I think one reason for that is the amazing casting of Leo Petty, who when he smiles looks so much like middle-aged Bitch that it's practically uncanny. The multi-generational casting in this show has been so good for so long that I was motivated to look up who the casting director is, and it's actually two guys, John Buchan and Jason Knight. So shout out to them for the amazing work, and I can't wait to see who they're going to cast at the end of this season as middle-aged Alice / Claire. We'll see what happens. Love the pod, and just so you know, I also know all your Hallmark movie reviews. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Eric.
I just want to, I'm making a timeout, a timeout motion right now. Is Eric suggesting that middle-aged Alice is Claire? Oh my God.
A lot of people have been positing
Where
Claire.
have I been?
We talked about this a lot last season. Nobody likes, well, not nobody. I don't like the idea that Claire is adult Alice. A lot of people have posited that. We talked a lot about it last season when Claire first came on the scene, especially because we were dealing with Alice and Nick re-meeting each other in the present day. That's not a theory that I like. However, I've also heard a lot of chatter this season, recently, really in the last week, that we're going to get a middle-aged Alice. And that is something that hadn't occurred to me, and I'm very curious to see. Do you want to see Alice's future?
Yeah, I do.
Do you?
Yeah, kind of.
Alice is one of the only ones. Alice is the only one who doesn't exist in this series in a different version of herself. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. It would be interesting to see that depiction.
My other comment on Eric's voicemail, I love that he shouted out the casting directors. This goes back to how much I love news and notes.
Yes.
We never, hardly ever, I don't think, talked about casting directors in our rundown of news and notes, but see, I think that people like it. If you haven't listened to our survey results episode, I encourage you. Anyway, I agree. The casting of young Vic is so perfect.
Yes. Last season, we got younger Vic. That is the son of the actor who plays adult
The older
Vic.
actor. Yes.
And now we have this midpoint, older teen, young adult Vic, who is not related to those actors, but I agree was incredible casting and agree with the statements across the board. I think the casting has been great.
Doesn't that seem like a fun job, casting? I don't know anything about it.
I would not be good at it.
Why?
I don't think it's a talent that I have, but I think it's an interesting job.
I think it'd be so cool to be like, oh, I see this person.
When you think, do you think in pictures?
Yeah, I do.
See, I don't.
Oh,
I think that's why it would be hard for me. Very literal.
Our next email is from Brittany. Brittany writes, have you heard of the book, The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman? He purports that everyone wants to feel loved in certain ways. Words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. Maybe that's why Dell is so frustrated with Sam. She keeps expecting tangible expressions of love, her desired love language and romance, but Sam isn't speaking that language. He's speaking a different one. Yes, I know about the 5 love languages. What's yours?
You'll say it's gifts. I say it's equally gifts and words of affirmation.
Yeah.
That too.
Do you think this could apply to Dell? Do you think?
I think it's a very generous take of what Dell is going through here because I think she was unfair to Sam. Mm-hmm. And while I think it is certainly possible that Dell isn't receiving love in the way that's most meaningful to her, she's also not communicating that effectively to Sam. She's just telling him that he's taking her for granted. And I think that's an overblown reaction to what's happening here. I still see this as Dell being caught between two worlds and unwilling to fully commit to the present.
Dell is a complicated human.
Yeah, she is.
I mean, she has experienced so much trauma and grief in her life. And I think it's a little bit unfair to be like, snap out of it. You need to move on with your life. Humans are very layered. I feel for her. Brittany also writes, Dell doesn't trust him not to leave if she tells him the truth. And so she's holding him at arm's length under the guise of protecting her girls. Do you think that's why you don't think she trusts him not to leave? Oh, that's interesting.
Does she not trust him not to leave? Perhaps because the people that she has loved have left.
Right.
So that's an interesting take. Perhaps. In regards to is Dell Kat's mom, Francisco says, I do think Dell is Kat's mom. That'd be too much to unpack in 5 episodes if she wasn't.
I agree. I'm just, painting on my clown makeup sometimes.
Sure.
Coming up with some theories.
Yes. And Dell at one point does say, she's talking to a cow or a horse giving birth.
Yeah.
She's like, I've only done this twice. I think Kat is her child. All right, let's talk about Evelyn. Brittany says, I hope Alice is with her at the end, not because of the manuscripts and the records, but because they are so dear to one another that this moment should happen. Evelyn needs the truth from the one she loved to know that she is loved. I hope that older Delilah is a part of that conversation. Francisco says, Evie seems like she was a really good mom, and from what Max says, a good grandma. It also seems she doesn't have this intense years-long rivalry with Dell, so I think the writers are rewriting her.
Rewriting Evie or rewriting Dell?
Well, rewriting their relationship, because certainly earlier in this series, it seems like there was a lot of animosity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would like to know, like, and maybe I've said this in a previous episode, like, what happened in all those years? We were under the impression that there was, like, they were friends, and then there was weird animosity, and I'm led to believe it was about Colton, but...
Well, then I think there was the incident at Lingermore, and Dell begged Evelyn not to press charges.
Yeah, okay. Man,
so maybe that's what she owes her for.
I need to go back and rewatch, because I don't remember all those details. Next up is we're going to talk about Alice and Evie's friendship. Brittany says, Alice is very good at encouraging Evelyn that she's an amazing human being worth loving. Alice gets back to her every chance she can get because she wants to help her. Evelyn was hurt because those love languages got interrupted through no fault of Alice. However, Alice doesn't tell Evelyn the truth about why she's been gone, something that would clarify Evie's understanding of events. Well, I mean,
I'm a time traveler is a hard pill to swallow, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if Evie... I mean, Nick understands it, but so why wouldn't she trust Evie?
Yeah, but Nick has proof. You know, Nick meets Alice in the past and in the present. I don't know that Evie wouldn't understand it, but I think it ruins something for these travelers to go around telling people, I'm a time traveler. And I think there's something in the mystery of that.
Well, maybe there'll be some great full circle moments at the end. And I know somebody mentioned it here, but maybe we see teenage Alice, young adult Alice talking to older Evelyn and explaining. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe Evelyn will actually remember her from the past, unlike everybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's take a quick break and come right back with more listener mailbag submissions. All right, we're still going to talk about Alice and what's going on with her this season. Francisco says, it seems like she isn't the MVP of the season like last season, but being used as a vehicle to show what Dell and Colton are doing. That's okay, of course, and she gave the reason why it had to be this way, but it's an interesting change. She's still a better time traveler than Kat, who can't keep herself hidden. That is an interesting change because she isn't interacting in the past anymore all of a sudden. And she's just kind of there so that the viewers can see what's going on. Alyssa says, one thing I miss from the earlier seasons is the emotional focus of the show. We used to get so many meaningful mother-daughter moments between Kat and Alice, but now they're mostly on separate journeys, chasing clues about Tessa. While that storyline matters, Alice is leaving for college in a few weeks, and they barely spend time together.
Alice is soiling the nest. If you're not a parent of a...
Is that something you're dealing with?
Just Google it, guys.
Yeah, we went through that last year. It's real.
Yeah, it is real. I kind of missed that too. There are some elements of the show from earlier seasons that I miss, and maybe that's why I say, like, oh, they could have ended it maybe with last season. But I don't think it makes the show bad. Also, maybe Kat is just spiraling out of thinking about losing, like, her kid.
And therefore she can't spend time with her?
Yeah. Let's talk about the Alice and Noah and Max triangle. Brittany writes, she and Noah were really sweet for all of 5 minutes last season. Ever since Alice became paranoid that she would end up with poor Max, it just got weird. Instead of letting her relationship with Noah die a natural death, she got back together with him, complicating things with the briefly unfriend-zoned Max. I hope Alice takes Max to say goodbye to Evelyn and eventually explains to him the real history between the Landrys and the Goodwins.
That's an interesting take about taking Max to say goodbye to Grandma Evelyn. Yeah. I hadn't thought about that.
But then she has to then trust Max with this big secret. Right?
For sure.
then it's just like your circle's getting wider and wider and wider of people who know.
Yes, but is there danger in that? She's not breaking the law.
No, I know, but outsiders can be like, I'm just afraid of secrets getting out.
Sure. She's a witch.
Exactly.
Y'all had lots to say about Nick. Gina said, I love that Nick has won you over on this episode. I love his character and the fun and levity he brings to the show. Brittany says, I'm so glad Nick didn't actually die in the past or get left behind. Wayne says, Nick playing dress up in the 20s. Finally, Spats is useful and not being creepy. But my big question the whole time was, where did he leave his clothes? Isn't Cliff going to find some 2026 clothes up in his room when he gets home? Brittany says, I hope Nick quotes the Goonies. It's our time down here. He goes from dressing like Knight Rider in the present to dressing like Clark Gable in the past. He's adora-baby. I'm just so fond of him ever since he said so emphatically, ew, about the age difference between he and Alice. That's a quality man right there.
Wait, we got like a real throwback in that one email from Brittany. Goonies and Knight Rider.
I know, my husband would appreciate those references. Lisa says, I know Nick isn't liked by all, but I think he brings a good level of goofiness to balance out the melancholy. If Kat and Elliot do get married, I'd assume that Nick would be his best man. One quick follow-up on that Nick comment. Brittany says, the show doesn't care much about such an obvious plot hole like Nick falling into the pond in the past without his clothes, but somehow having them back on in the present. I don't think he was wearing the leather jacket under the shirt.
Oh, gosh, that's
nice. Did you see that, Kat?
Did you see that? Man, freaking-tastic. Let's talk about Elliot in this episode. Wayne wrote in, Elliot did great in this episode. Instead of tantrums and spirals, he was tender and sentimental. TNS.
That's right.
Alyssa wrote, I really enjoyed Elliot in this episode, although I did scream about him not hiding at all. How did his mom and Evie not see him at all standing away from the tree?
Yeah, he went to the Cat Landry School of Time Traveling.
You're not invisible, dude. Brittany writes, it was weird seeing Tessa go into klepto mode again. A tall, dark, handsome stranger coming into your life was obviously Elliot. He was literally standing right there over an open fence. But seriously, how did neither young lady notice him staring at them? Elliot was not being stealthy, but Vic noticed him right away. And finally, Elliot seeing his parents excited to have him must have been truly startling. He could have gotten angry and railed at them, but instead he celebrated with them. It was a full moment for Elliot.
Yeah.
I mean, don't you think about you and I. Our parents are not perfect, right?
Correct.
If we could go back and see them in time and maybe get a little bit understanding of like why they are who they are today, wouldn't that give you some kind of closure or grace you could offer them?
It's their first time on Earth.
Yes, exactly.
She's just a girl.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And my first instinct in that moment wouldn't be to be like, hey, you did this and this and this.
Yeah, exactly.
Just understanding them as people.
Yeah.
There are some thoughts on the writing of Elliot this season. Alyssa says, sometimes Elliot says things are just ridiculous. I still remember in season 2, him yelling at Kat that Colton was like a father to him and he couldn't deal with her part in his death. My guy, that was her father. What are you doing? Alyssa goes on to say, the bigger issue is that the writers have taken an amazing character and bent his reactions to serve the plot instead of developing him naturally. There's no build up to his emotions and his maturity level fluctuates depending on what the story needs in the moment, not on what the character has actually experienced. Finally, the abandonment storyline is a good example. We haven't seen him consistently show the kinds of traits you'd see from someone carrying abandonment trauma until this season. Not in the same way it portrayed his trauma with his father's emotional abuse. Y'all are very insightful. That's all I have to say about that.
I agree. Let's talk the Auggie boys. Why are the Auggie boys after Kat? Lori writes in, I don't understand why the Auggie boys are after Kat. Other than that interaction with them before she gets into the truck, she doesn't speak with them, and that conversation was no reason for them to want to kill her. So has someone tipped them off that Kat should be taken out because she might be in cahoots with Cliff Kane? If so, who? Fern to take suspicion off of herself? ? Lori goes on to say, I do wonder which Auggie boy is Elliot's grandfather. Neither of them is anything like him.
Well, to both of those comments, I say, just make sure you turn in on Sunday.
No spoilers, but watch this week's episode.
Let's talk about Kat in the past. Brittany says, your comment about Marty disappearing from the photo had me thinking that whether Elliot goes or not, he's in danger. We're dealing with mob ties, right? Which means Kat will clearly take it upon herself to make sure that the Auggie boys don't get shot. How will she do so? By wearing the most ridiculous disguise she can, of course, because otherwise these guys, who she thinks want to do her harm, will harm her if they know that she's there. This, of course, eventually happens, and they follow her up from the tunnels to the Goodwin home, catching her trying to get Fern out of there when she really should have left Fern to filming. That location is nowhere near the explosion, but they probably take the women back down to where it's dangerous, and 4 good men go in to rescue them. Conclusion: Kat is stupid and impulsive, and dressing up like a man will be so obvious even the Auggie boys will notice. It's got to be something like this. I mean, 5 went in, 4 came out. It's not an accident. That we're going to get some clarity on that. And who's involved. And of course, it's going to be one of our players.
Yeah.
And Francisco says, well, it didn't take that long to end up in jail again. I'm seeing a real pattern here.
Yeah. I feel Francisco every time I watch this show.
I know.
When Kat does something, I'm like, oh, I'm sure Francisco is
absolutely
firing up the laptop as we watch. Our next topic is Grayson Goodwin. Brittany says, Grayson Goodwin seems to be covering his own butt, and he got way more information out of Kat than she got out of him. He now knows Tessa is being searched for. He, of course, will egotistically think the reason is to expose his bootlegging operation, but he will be wrong. Jen writes in, does he know about time travel, or is he just concerned about his business interest, which may be booze as well as Hollywood and the Herald? If he and Fern are as close as they both say they are, and she seems so relaxed about time travel, why wouldn't she have told him? Do you think Fern would have told Grayson about the time travel? No, I don't think so.
I do not. But I don't get Fern, so.
She is a enigma. Is that the word?
Yes. Let's talk Cliff. Brittany says Agent Cliff Kane was as transparent as a bucket of rainwater. He likes Fern a lot. He seems very amused by Kat and Nick as well. He definitely knows something is off because Nick legit stole his clothes. He was joking with Nick about the clothes because he was expecting to get them back, and also because he was letting them know he knew something was up. He was not made an investigator because he's thick. He knows how to read people. Nick's modern slang and mannerisms had to be a dead giveaway.
Yeah, but would Cliff really be like, is this guy from the future?
I don't think he would make that leap, but I think something would strike him as incongruous.
Yes.
Brittany also says Cliff Kane being frustrated has nothing to do with money. He's tired of injustice, of criminals going free, and the establishment making a profit from it. And Francisco says Cliff seems like an okay guy, but not exactly a great inspector.
Let's talk Auntie Coop. Woohoo! Lindsay says, some people thought that Tessa could be Cassandra. This episode disproved that theory, right? Since Grayson talked about and knows Auntie Coop, I don't think that timeline works anymore. Had we thought Tessa might be Cassandra? Was that a theory we said?
Cassandra the sister?
Yeah.
I don't know if that was our theory.
I don't know either. Brittany writes, have they listed an actress playing Auntie Coop yet?
As of the recording of this episode, not on IMDb.
Did you look?
I did.
Due diligence. Megan. Mandy wraps this up. She says, I think Tessa is from the future and the 1980s isn't really her real time. And somehow she knew she would have to go back to the 1920s to save Elliot, but somehow got stuck in 1882 and had to stay and wait until the 1920s. She was definitely planning to come back because of the suitcase. Guys, the math. Ooh. The math.
I'm that lady with the numbers around her head. Erin writes in with the theory about the One. She says, we've always thought of the One as someone that had powers over the pond, but we only ever heard that term from Fern. Could the One that Fern kept referring to actually be whoever was coming back for Tessa, a.k.a. Auntie Coop? Could Tessa have told Fern to watch for someone to come through the pond, saying it will be a boy/man looking for her?
Oh, yeah, because remember when Kat comes this season and Tessa's like, but you're not a boy.
Yes.
Or she says, but you're a girl. I can't remember the line exactly, but she was referring to that Kat was not of the gender that was supposed to come through. So maybe it could be Elliot. Would that be wild take if Elliot ends up being the one.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with the Landrys at all.
I think that'd be a leap. I think that would be, no disrespect to Elliot, a disappointing ending for me. Just because the show...
Send your emails to Megan.
It's not an Evan Williams
No, I know it's not.
slight. I think the show hasn't been set up that way.
Yeah.
Alice is so central to this show that if she's not the one, there needs to be some other major purpose. And it would be like a little misogynistic to have like Alice and Kat running the show, and then all of a sudden they're like, it's Elliot.
Yeah. Yeah. Amy writes in, she wants to talk about the show The Pit.
I love this. I love this commentary because this came up for people who weren't paying attention. You're like, what's happening here?
Are you looking at me for not paying attention? I do remember talking about The Pit and The Way Home.
Well, I said, we were talking about wanting all these answers, and I said,
yeah.
I sat through 15 episodes of The Pit, and while I wanted answers, I wasn't displeased with the pace of that show. So Amy has some thoughts on that.
She says, The Pit sprinkles the questions into a show that is otherwise a very fast-paced and engaging to watch, even aside from the ongoing questions. On the other hand, The Way Home builds questions upon questions, mystery upon mystery, and we get very little relief from that. There's so much build up and very little payoff so far. The Pit is a show that has characters with some mystery about them. The Way Home is a show about the mysteries.
You know, I read these emails and I think, we are the wrong people to be doing this podcast because so many people just have so many more insightful things to say. I appreciate it.
Me too.
In that same vein, Francisco says there seem to be so many unanswered questions, and I honestly don't think they'll all be satisfactorily answered. We still know hardly anything about Griffin. Tessa's bouncing all over the place. Fern is practically useless. The list goes on. Alyssa says every episode seems focused on adding more clues without giving answers, which is why I really enjoyed this episode. It finally brought back the emotional moments with Dell and Alice and Dell and Jacob.
Let's move on to Jacob. First of all, let's talk the Jacob-Thomas Coyle connection. Lisa writes, I can't recall where he settled after leaving Port Haven, but what if Thomas Coyle moved there and opened that bar? Adding to that, what if the woman that stopped in is a Coyle descendant? Didn't Thomas go to New York?
Certainly at some point he did, yes.
I don't remember where he went either, but I thought it was New York. Do you want me to read this other Jacob one or no?
Sure.
Lisa also writes, regarding Jacob, why are they so insistent that he come back home? Let him have his gap year, so to speak, and come home when he's ready. He has lived in 2 different time periods and has gone through a lot. Allow him space to find himself away from the pond drama. I kind of agree with that, but also I kind of can see Dell and Kat and Alice wanting to keep him close because he's been gone for so long.
Yeah, and one thing that we know, but we don't know that well is he's gone for a year. He's not gone for a short period of time. He's gone for Alice's entire senior year of high school. And we kind of forget that whole year has passed in the background in between seasons. And I agree, Jacob should be allowed to have some space. He should be allowed to recover. But he also did it without any communication.
Yeah.
There was no, hey, I'm doing okay. There was no check-in, which made it harder. It made them feel like they had lost him again.
Yes.
Let's wrap it up talking about some pop culture references in this episode. Wayne says 2 time travel references came to me while watching. Elliot and Vic gave me Tony Stark and Howard Stark vibes from Avengers Endgame.
Never seen it. I have no idea what he's referring to.
There is a time travel scene where Tony Stark meets his father in an elevator.
I'm impressed that you know that.
Yeah, I live in a Marvel household. Fern relaying Tessa's warning sounded like Back to the Future 2 and rich 80s Biff talking to Marty about Gray's Sports Almanac. That's another movie that I have watched against my will many times.
I've only really seen the first one. I mean, I've seen the other 2, but I couldn't remember any scenes from it.
I can't.
For the stupid train in
stand
episode 3.
Yeah, can't stand the third one. I don't like a Western. Oh, especially goofy Biff. Hey, McFly. Or they don't call him McFly. They call him Clint Eastwood. Ugh. All right, friends, that is a wrap on this week's listener mailbag. We'll be back on Monday with our recap of The Way Home, episode 6, season 4. Can't wait to hear your thoughts and theories on this episode. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
All right, friends, before we go, just a quick heads up. You're about to hear some ads. These little gems help us keep the show running and the Hallmark love flowing. So do with that info what you will. Grab a snack, hit the skip button, or maybe, just maybe, listen in and discover your new favorite product. Bye.